Today, in our series on corporate governance and social responsibility in America, our presentation topic is Lost Power, Lost Jobs and Thoughts on Corporate Governance.
Alone among the world's economic powers, the United States is suffering through a deep job slump that isn't explained or consistent with the rest of the economy's performance.
The gross domestic product here, the total value of all goods and services, has recovered from the recession better than in Britain, Germany, Japan, or Russia. Yet a greatly shrunken group of American workers, working harder and more efficiently, is producing these goods and services.
The unemployment rate is higher in this country than in Britain or Russia and much higher than in Germany or Japan, according to a study of worldwide job markets at Gallup.com. The American jobless rate Gallup found is also higher than China's.
Economists are now engaged in a spirited debate, much of it conducted on popular blogs like Marginal Revolution, about the causes of the American job slump. Lawrence Katz, a Harvard labor economist, calls the full picture genuinely puzzling. But are these economists considering fully the cause of this dilemma in the light of corporate governance models?
That the financial crisis originated here, and was so severe here, surely plays some role. The United States had a bigger housing bubble than most other countries, leaving a large group of idle construction workers who can't easily switch industries. Many businesses, meanwhile, are reluctant to commit to hiring workers out of a fear that debt-heavy households won't spend much in coming years. But beyond these immediate causes, the basic structure of the American economy also seems to be an important factor. This jobless recovery, after all, is the third straight recovery since 1991, to begin with months and months of little job growth.
Why? One obvious possibility is the balance of power between employers and employees.
Relative to the situation in most other countries, or in this country for most of the last century, American employers operate with few restraints. Unions have withered, at least in the private sector, and courts have grown friendlier to business. Many companies can now come much closer to setting the terms of their relationship with employees, letting them go when they become a drag on profits, and relying on remaining workers or temporary ones when business picks up.
Just consider the main measure of corporate health, profits. In Canada, Japan and most of Europe, corporate profits have still not recovered to pre-crisis levels. In the United States, profits have more than recovered, rising 12% since late 2007. For corporate America, the Great Recession is over. For the American workforce, it's not.
Unfortunately, fixing the job market will take years. Even if job growth accelerated to the rapid pace of the late 1990s and remained there, without a change in corporate governance, the unemployment rate would not fall below 6% until 2016. We could now be in only the first half of the longest stretch of high unemployment since World War II.
Is the only way to put people back to work to lift economic growth? Must we first lift economic growth? What fundamental changes should we consider first in America's corporate governance model? Should these changes reflect more social responsibility? What is the proper role, if any, for corporate political activism? Are changes suggested in the Shareholder Protection Act that require shareholder authorization before a public company provides financial support a sufficient safeguard for shareholder protection? For Washington, lifting growth will first mean avoiding the mistakes of 2010, when the Fed, the White House and some members of Congress prematurely assumed that a solid recovery was underway. The risk this year is that they will start reducing the budget deficit immediately by cutting federal programs, rather than having the cuts take effect in future years.
Policymakers could also help the unemployed by spreading economic pain more broadly among the population. I realize this idea may not sound so good at first. Who wants pain to spread? But the fact is that this downturn has concentrated its effects on a relatively narrow group of Americans.
In Germany and Canada, some companies and workers have averted layoffs by agreeing to cut everyone's hours and thus their income. In this country, average wages for the employed have risen faster than inflation since 2007, which is highly unusual for a downturn. Yet unemployment remains terribly high, and almost half of the unemployed have been out of work for at least 6 months. These are the people bearing the brunt of the downturn.
Germany's job-sharing program, known as Kurzarbeit, or short work, has won praise from both conservative and liberal economists. Senator Jack Reed, Democrat of Rhode Island, has offered a bill that would encourage similar programs. So far, though, the White House has not pursued it aggressively. Perhaps Gene Sperling, the new director of the National Economic Council, should put this back on the agenda.
Restoring some balance to the relationship between employers and employees will be more difficult. One problem is that too many labor unions, like the auto industries, have been poorly run, hurting companies and, ultimately, workers. Of course, many other companies, AT&T, General Electric, Southwest Airlines, have thrived with unionized workers, and study after study has shown that unions usually do benefit workers. As one bumper sticker says, unions, the folks who brought you the weekend.
Today, unions are clearly not playing on a level field. Companies pay minimal penalties for illegally trying to buy unions, and have become expert at doing so, legally and otherwise. For all their shortcomings, unions remain many workers' best hope for some bargaining power.
The list of promising solutions to the jobs slump can go on and on. Reforming the disability insurance system so it does not encourage long-term joblessness would help. Improving high schools and colleges, reclaiming the global lead in education, would help even more. Remember, the jobless rate for college graduates is only 4.8%, and some highly skilled jobs continue to go unfilled.
The job slump has become too severe to disappear anytime soon. It will be part of the American economy and American politics for years to come. But there is no reason to treat it as a problem that's immune from solutions. For starters, it would be worth looking at corporate governance models in other countries, and figuring out what they're doing right.
We will explore more closely the concepts of corporate governance and survey its history.
You are invited to take the challenge quiz to this episode, Lost Power, Lost Jobs. We hope you will view other episodes in our series on corporate governance and social responsibility in America. Finally, educators are invited to watch our presentation, a special request. There we will explain more about this multi-part educational series.